It was just another ordinary Tuesday when I came across the computer screen, my fingers dancing on the keyboard while finishing a code module. Svetlana, or simply SSSO for those who were already part of my life at the age of 33, in my home office, where the smell of fresh coffee mingled with the cat's roll lying next door. Everything seemed like any other day: virtual meetings, ongoing projects, the quiet routine of those who work as a developer in one of the few Russian IT companies that still value talent without tying anyone to an office chair. 4 years ago, after years saving each rubles, I made the decision that would change everything. I bought my own corner. A 3-bedroom apartment in a new building, no Swiss luxury, but mine. The best investment I have ever made. I turned one of the rooms into my professional sanctuary, negotiated the permanent home office. After all, after the pandemic, even the strictest companies learned to make it flexed and, for the first time, I felt that life finally made sense. It was that same year that the destination introduced me to Maxim, a St. Petersburg game developer, with a smile that disarmed and a mind as sharp as mine. A distance relationship? Yes, quite a challenge. Weekend divided between Sapsan trains, Pulkovo flights, and the hope that one day it would all be worth it. I even considered selling my apartment and moving close to him. After all, with my work, a stable internet connection was enough. Maybe we even bought a townhouse in the surroundings, something of ours. But life, as always, has a habit of surprising us when we least expect it. It was immersed in the code when an email arrived. Usually, I ignore notifications during work, but something in that sender made me click. A message on my old, almost forgotten entrance box, with a name I haven't seen for 5 years, Mother. 5 long, painful reasons and no excuse. Allow me to tell about my exemplary family. Viktor and Ludmila Danielenko, both past the 60s. My father, a man who spent his life in construction sites, building alien dreams as they're crumbling. My mother, a factory meticulous accountant, with hands that registered numbers with the same coldness with which she treated her children. And then there was Olga, my older sister, 36, married to Denis, a couple who seemed to compete to see who could be more irresponsible. 5 years ago, everything was different. Still kept in touch, still appeared in Sunday dinners which, naively, I waited with expectation. I already earned well, renting an apartment in the center, and kept every kopeck as if my life depended on it. I managed to gather almost 1.5 million of rubles, a fortune for me, the passport to independence. The plan was simple: to give a generous entrance, reduce the mortgage portions, and finally breathe a sigh of relief. Until that Saturday. I arrived as always, compliments, smiles, the table posted with care. But there was something in the air. Olga and Denis were there, excited, exchanging accomplices with my parents. As soon as I sat down, my mother turned to me with a smile that looked more like a trap. Olega will start a business of its own. This time, it will work. I smiled back, but inside I just thought, there comes another. After all, it was 2 failed attempts. Twice my parents had covered their debts with their own face sweat. I have everything planned. I just need initial capital, she said, her eyes shining with an excitement that I already knew well. That's when both, as in a rehearsal, turned to me. The silence weighed like lead. You know I'm gathering to the apartment, I said, the dry throat. So what? Olga's voice was sweet, almost hypnotic. You are almost 1.5 million. In 2 years, I return you double. I couldn't take that scam anymore. Olga, you have failed twice. Maybe it's time to get a real job, like everyone else. What came later was a hurricane. My sister cried, Denis called me selfish, and my parents. My parents. Instead of defending me, they attacked. You have no heart. Your sister needs help, and you just think of yourself. My father went straight: either I delivered the money, or I could forget that I had a family. I looked at those faces, who should love me unconditionally, and I answered with a calm that surprised me. I won't give my money. They expelled me. Literally. The next day I changed number. I deleted all the nets where they could find me and, a year later, bought my apartment alone. 5 years passed. I heard that Olga had finally worked, a beauty salon, trips to Turkey every 3 months, a Porsche Cayenne in the garage. I even claimed myself for her, from afar. But approach me. Never. Once burned, twice cautious. And now, after so long, that email. Svetlana, we need to see ourselves. It's a matter of life or death. My hands trembled. The first idea that came to me was the worst. Someone was dying. As much as it hated them, it was not so cruel that I ignore it. I answered, dry, I'll be there on Saturday. The day arrived too fast. Night and clear, scenarios repeating in my head like an endless movie. When I finally parked my Octavia in front of the building where they lived, that same grey housing development, witnesses so many memories, I felt my heart beat out. 2 luxurious cars were parked, Olga's white Cayenne and Dennis' Mercedes, both shining like trophies of a life I never wanted. I took a deep breath before climbing. The 3rd floor, the front door, my mother opened. Aging, with wrinkles that were not their last time, the damp eyes. SSSO. His voice failed. Thank you for coming. Among the tense eyes, my father in his armchair, harassed with swollen eyes, Dennis pale like a ghost, I realized that this was not a meeting just between us both. What is happening? I asked, crossing my arms. You said it was urgent. My mother swallowed hard, the tears dripping without control. It's because of Olga. She is in serious problems. I looked at my sister, who avoided my gaze. What problems? I insisted. My father coughed, as if the words weighed. Your business went bankrupt 3 months ago. It owes a fortune. They lost the apartment, the cars are about to be taken. A part of me felt sorry. Another, a twinge of I warned. But I remained silent. I'm sorry, he said sincere. But what does this have to do with me? My mother wiped her face, and that's when she knew, the scam was just beginning. But that was not all. Even after losing the apartment, she still should. Very. And to dangerous people. Olga finally broke the silence, almost in a whisper. 1.5 million. Who do you owe this money? I asked, feeling my stomach to turn. Dennis answered for her, with a tense voice. To a financial. Those who don't expect. Have already won the process. Soon, the bailiff will knock on the door. But that was just the official part. There was also their methods. Olga collapsed in tears again. They call non-stop, threaten, know where we are at Dennis's parents' house. They follow us when we go out, write down every step. We are afraid, Svetlana. In fact, I felt sorry for her. But I still didn't understand why they called me. It was scary, yes, but what do you want from me? I repeated, looking at each one. It was then that my mother released the bomb. We know you bought a good apartment. 3 bedrooms. Do you think you shouldn't sell it to help your sister? I stared at her as if a second head had grown. Are you crazy? My mother continued, ruthless. You're young. Yet. We'll win another. And Olga with Dennis can really suffer if they do not pay, completed my father, crossing his arms. I looked at them all. Let's recap. 5 years ago, you kicked me home because I refused to play the whims of Olga. Now, her business broke how I predicted. She owes bad guys, and you want me to sell my apartment to save her. Family does not abandon family, said my father, solemn. Laugh. A dry laugh, full of bitterness. Family? You said that I was no longer your daughter. Remember? They went out of life without blinking. Olga cried louder. I know we make mistakes, but now it's different. Different how? I exploded. 5 years ago, I warned what was going to happen. You didn't hear me. Now you want me to pay for her irresponsibility. The silence that followed was sharp. Everyone stared at me as if I were the monster of history. I won't do that, he said firmly. Olga dug this hole. That comes out alone. If you want so much to help you, sell your apartment and save your favorite daughter. My mother took her hands on her face, as if I had slapped her. It's our only home. We are old, Svetlana. We can't start from scratch like you. Then they understand exactly how I feel, I said, taking my bag. Olga called me when I was already at the door. You're making a huge mistake. These people don't play. I turned and looked into her eyes without blinking. Me either. I left, leaving them back in that room. As soon as I got home, I blocked my mother's email. No more dramas. A week passed without news. I started thinking that they had finally understood I was not a family ATM. Maxim called every day. I told him everything, and his voice was a safe haven. You did it right. They cannot disappear for 5 years and then appear demanding that you solve their problems. And I was pleased with my decision. Yes, it was a pity what happened to Olga, but it was not my fault. Nor my responsibility. I had my own life. Until that Tuesday morning. I was on the stove, making coffee when I heard the clay of a car in the courtyard. I looked out the window and almost dropped the cup. My mother and father climbed the sidewalk toward my building. How the hell did they get my address? I ran to the stairs before they played the bell, the fury burning inside. What are you doing here? How did you get my address? My mother raised her chin, proudly. We hired a private detective. We needed to talk to you in person, as it blocked my inbox. A detective? I repeated, incredulously. My father looked around, mentally calculating the value of real estate in the neighborhood. Good neighborhood, he said. Dear. Get out of here, I ordered. But my mother pushed me to the side and entered the apartment as if she owned the place. My father followed her. Audacity left me speechless for a second. Don't settle, I warned. You don't stay. She walked around the room, touching my things, examining everything. If he sold this apartment, he would pay Olga's debt easily and still left for a smaller thing. A good 2 rooms. I said I don't see, I cut. Look how much space. He insisted, my father. You live alone. You don't need all this. What I need or do not need is not your account, I said. My mother turned to me, with tears in her eyes. Svetlana, the Olga is terrified. These people called yesterday. They know where she and Dennis are. They said that if they didn't pay until the end of the month. His voice trembled. That something bad will happen. Call the police, I said, crossing my arms. The police are no use, my father shook his head. These are not people a delegate scares. I felt the anger boil inside me. Even so, it's not my problem. Get out. Now. We don't go out until you agree to help your sister, Minute. Her mother planted the fists at the waist. Then I call the real police. I grabbed the cell phone and started dialing. My father grabbed my wrist. Don't be stupid, it turns off that. I pulled my hand with a sudden movement. Take your hands out of me or I swear I call. They realized I wasn't kidding. My mother collapsed in tears again. Okay, Svetlana, he sobbed. But that is not over. If something happens to Olenka, you will carry this guilt. And if something happens to me for getting into this mess, is it my fault too? I replied. At least those who missed you for what you did. My father pointed a finger to me, threatening. You will still regret it. Family has to help yourself. You didn't think about it 5 years ago, he said, closing the door in their face. I locked the lock and, without wasting time, called Victoria, the broker with whom I had talked a few weeks earlier about selling the apartment. At the time, I still considered moving close to Maxim. Hello, Victoria. Arqui is Svetlana Danilenko. Remember we talked about selling my house? I need to do this as soon as possible. I am willing to give 5% off to accelerate. Excellent. She answered excitedly. I have a customer interested in your region. With this discount, I'm sure it closes. In 3 days, Victoria called back. The value was below what I expected, but for a quick sale, it was within the reasonable. I accepted on time. Maxim was surprised when I told my decision. After they appeared here, I don't trust them anymore, I explained. I'm sure they won't give up. Better to sell, save money on accounts they don't know and follow my life. He nodded thoughtfully. It's wise. And do you know what that means? Smiled. You can move here right now. Then we see how to do it in Petersburg. For the first time in days, I really smile. Don't you mind if I spend time with you while we look for something definitive? I dreamed of it, he laughed, pulling me close. The sale was quick. In a week, we signed the papers, registered everything at the registry, and the money fell into my account. Maxim came to help pack my things and take them to the new address. It was good to have it around. Alone, I wouldn't have realized that stress. While the last boxes were loaded on the van, I launched one last look at the apartment. I don't deny that I was happy there. I worked as a convict to conquer it, every square meter paid with sweat and sleepless nights. But selling was the right decision that could have made. With Maxim, we were starting from scratch, and that place was no longer the weapon my family used to blackmail me. And you? He wrapped me in his arms, breaking my thoughts. How are you feeling? Normal. I took a deep breath. Let's go from here. We went out together, and it was as if a mountain was taken from my back. It didn't matter what would happen to Olga and his debts now. I had finally released myself from that toxic cycle of dramas and guilt. Life with Maxim turned out to be surprisingly lightly. His spacious apartment at Petrogradskaya, my remote work, the quiet nights planning our future as we flipped into. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy. It was almost a month when, on a Tuesday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number, but with Nishny's code. On the other side, a feminine, dry and bureaucratic voice. Svetlana Danilenko? Here is Senior Lieutenant Brukovetsky of the Department of Internal Affairs of the Pryoksky district. I turn on an incident involving their parents, Viktor and Ludmila Danilenko. My stomach rolled. What incident? They were arrested last night for invasion of household and willful destruction of property. The owner of the residence filed a complaint. Invasion where? My voice miss. Who? Rua Klinovaya, 47. This property belonged to you until recently, no? Belonged. I swallowed hard. But I sold her a month ago. What were my parents doing there? We still find out the details. Due to preliminary information, it caused significant damage, destroyed furniture, broken windows, grated walls. The new owner caught them in the room, punching the coffee table with a baseball club. Is this a joke? My leg was shaking. Unfortunately, no. The damage is estimated between 400 and 500,000 rubles. His parents claim that the property was still yours and justify the act as revenge. I sank on the couch. Lieutenant, I need to explain something. And I told you everything, the weeks of persecution, the threats, the pressure to sell the apartment and to save Olga from the mafias that, in the end, were only late loans. He heard in silence before asking. That is, they didn't know that you had already sold the place? Clearly not. I sighed. They must have gone there thinking it was still mine, ready to destroy everything as a lesson. Could it be? His voice was serious. The problem is that the target was someone else's property. The owner is furious and intends to sue them for damage. I don't blame him. I hung up and passed everything to Maxim. His face was a mirror of my shock. This is insanity, Svet. They could have shot. What if the owner were armed? Nor had it considered this possibility. My parents, my own parents, almost became injured or worse because of pathetic revenge. The following week, the news came from police or common acquaintances. The accusation was serious, Article 167 of the Penal Code for willful damage and 139 by invasion. Their lawyer negotiated an agreement. They confessed to blame in exchange for suspended sentence, but had to bear everything: 400,000 for damage, more court costs, attorney's fees, moral damages. In total, almost 700,000 rubles. It was Genia who gave me the final details. Svet, your parents sold their own home to pay it. The one who defended so much, saying they were too old to start over. She laughed embarrassed. And guess what? After paying off the debt with the new owner, the money left was all for Olga to pay the bad guys. Bandits? I repeated, incredulously. So it is. Genia lowered his voice. I found that such a mafia that threatened her sister was just a chic financial. No hench, no broken bone. Olya invented everything to press you. The dangerous creditors were just a common judicial process. Revelation hit me like a tsunami. My sister had manipulated all, the parents, who were now squeezed in a rented apartment with her and Dennis, arguing non-stop, I, who almost destroyed my life because of his lies. Where are they living? I asked, more out of curiosity than concern. In a tall T1, the 4. They say it's hell. I didn't feel sorry. Not enough to resume ties anyway. Months passed. Rumors came to me. The family was trying to contact through third parties, apologizing, a chance to fix things. Every time someone touched the subject, my answer was the same. No. Until, on a Thursday, Genia called again. Your mother asked me to get a message. He says he regrets. Who realized they made mistakes but is too late. Too late. My voice didn't train. 5 years they didn't care if I was alive or dead. Then they required me to ruin the mistakes of Olga. And when they failed, they committed a crime for pure stubbornness. I took a deep breath. He arrives. But it's your family, Svet. Family doesn't do that. I cut. Family does not disappear for years and comes back just to demand money. Do not hire detectives to spy you. Does not invade other houses with baseball tacos. Maxim heard everything. When I hung up, he held my hand. How are you? B. M. Smiles. We found an amazing apartment, my work is great, and I no longer have alien dramas on my back. He returned the smile, but his eyes shone with something else. Speaking of apartment, knee on the floor, he opened a box. Svetlana Danilenko, do you want to marry me? For the first time in years, I cried with happiness. Yes. 1,000 times yes. That day we were engaged. Over the weekend, we signaled in the new home. Our future was guaranteed. Sometimes I think of the family. If I did it right to cut them for good. But then I remember how light my life was without its blackmail, its crises manufactured. And I know yes, it was the right decision. Olga dug his own grave with dubious schemes. My parents chose to save her instead of letting her learn from the mistakes. Everyone preferred to crush me, and in the end they even committed a crime accepting a no. I chose another way. I chose a man who loves me without conditions. I chose to protect my sanity and my money. I chose people who do not see me as a solution to their problems. And when Maxim and I planned the ceremony or talk about children, when I celebrate my promotion at work, I know, it was the best choice I've ever made. I am happy. In truth. And that happiness would not have existed. Not if I had allowed them to drag me back to the swamp of expectations, blame and manipulations they called family. No, I didn't give in. I didn't take a step back. And I don't feel a second of regret. Because cutting ties with those who only know how to suck their energy is not cruelty, it is survival. It was the most radical love act I have ever practiced, choosing my well-being, my peace, my life. And today, when I look back, I only see one thing: the woman who had the courage to save himself.